So tell me something. How do you feel when I tell you that the guy who invented the pet rock made over $1 million? Or when you see someone making a crazy amount of money on something ridiculously simple, like jelly bracelets. And I'm not talking about the 1980s jelly bracelets. I'm talking about the ones reinvented into animal shapes that like the kids went crazy for. I mean, millions made on stretchy plastic in shapes that didn't even hold when you wore them as a bracelet. And if you're anything like me, you probably think, really? A rock? A bracelet? I could have done that too, but we didn't. And that's the crux of today's story. Hi, I'm Sarah Scott, and welcome to Unforeseen Journey, where each week we take a piece of scripture, challenge what we thought we knew about it, and discover one way we can live it out in our everyday lives. So this week I'm in Luke 16, and Jesus is telling this wild parable about a shrewd manager. The guy is about to get fired. We don't know why. He is accused of dishonesty, but the details are a bit fuzzy. Facing unemployment, he panics. What am I going to do? I've got no plan, no safety net, no friends. So he makes a move. He cuts a deal with all of his boss's debtors, right? What do you owe? I'll cut it in half. He's thinking to himself, well, if I can make some friends now, maybe they'll help me later. And here's the twist. At the end of the story, the boss actually commends him, not for being shady, but for being shrewd, quick, resourceful, creative. Then Jesus drops this line. If the people of the world are that shrewd, why aren't the people of faith just as bold? That one stung. And honestly, most sermons will stop right here and make it all about the money, right? He was going after the money, blah, 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 blah. But I wanted to look at this a little bit differently. I was thinking to myself, there's got to be a better message here than just be, frugal with your money, right? And it's only a part of it. And so when I started to look into this a little bit more and look if there's something different, really, when he's thinking of how people being shrewd, it isn't about being shrewd with our money, but it's being shrewd with our resources. The manager didn't have money, but he did have his mind, and he did have some cunning, and he was a little crafty with how he was approaching people, right? He had courage, I guess, if we're going to say pluckiness. So money is one resource that we can be looking at, but so are our time, our skills, our connections, our quirks, our passions, and your literal voice. These are all temporary tools that we've been given to use to navigate the world today. You can't take them with you. And even if you can, I imagine they'll be used much differently in heaven. Now, what we're asking is if the rest of the world uses these tools to build empires out of rocks and bracelets, what would happen if we used ours with that same confidence? So let's take this a little bit further. Let's look at this from an example. I was gifted with a singing voice, one that I have been squandering for years. It's been trained, it's been used. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And then over time, I've buried it. I got tangled up in relationships, loss, disappointment. Same with my speaking voice. I let it shrink. I used to preach all the time, and I don't think I have spoken about much at all until I started this podcast. It's a gift that I was given, and I've tucked it away. And maybe you've got a gift too that you're hiding out. Maybe it's your art. Maybe you're a gifted organizer, a storyteller, a gardener, a cook. We all have something that comes easily to us, so easily that we discount it. And yet, the world is out there selling pet rocks. Why are we hiding what we've actually got as real gifts? That gap, this shrewdness gap, is everywhere. The loudest voices are pushing half-baked ideas full of confidence. Meanwhile, people with real gifts are hiding it and calling it humility. It's not humility, it's fear. And it leaves holes in the world that should have been filled with light. So here's my invitation. I want you to sit down and list out your resources, even the weirdest things you can think of. Circle ones that you've been hiding. And if you don't like that word, say which ones have you not used in a while. Then I want you to choose one slightly bold, very uncomfortable way of putting it to use this week. Now, it doesn't have to be huge. If you used to love to bake and you haven't baked in forever, bake a pile of muffins, drop them off to a neighbor. Post a poem instead of keeping it in your notebook. One of my very favorite ways to do this, by the way, if you really want to hold yourself accountable, put it out on social media. Oh, but Sarah, no, no, no. Put it in your stories. If you're really feeling like that's way too bold, put it in your stories. Stories are there for 24 hours and then they are gone, right? They're only seen by our closest network of people and not by the world at large. So you aren't actually really throwing it out there. You're just throwing it out there to your people, which I also know can be very scary. But do it. Just do it. It'll disappear in 24 hours and you won't have to think about it again. All right? Sing one song. Go to church. Sing with a bunch of other people. Sing at karaoke. Whatever it takes. Use the gifts that God has given you. And if all of that feels like it's just too much, then I'll invite you to send it to me. Okay? Send it to my email. Find me on social media. Send it to me in a DM. If that's going to make it brave enough for you, if that's the small step you need to take to make it feel a little bit better for yourself, I would love to see and hear what you're doing out in the world. Because every time we do one little thing, then that leads to a bigger step and a bigger step and a bigger step. And we start getting more bold and more creative with how we can use our gifts. And that is what we were looking at in the Shrewd Manager. And that is how we are going to bring more of our gifts into this world. Thanks for listening. And remember, your faith was never meant to be contained. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.